Are you afraid to travel by yourself? Maybe because it's scary, or maybe because of financial reasons. Maybe you'll think it'll cost too much, or maybe you're just afraid you're going to get lonely on the trip. Hey guys, it's Erica from America, your favorite flight attendant and total specialist in what we call solo traveling. Today is another Travel Tuesday where I react to a travel guru and then I give you my 2 cents as a flight attendant, just to add to the conversation. Today's video, I'm reacting to somebody who is diving into the subject of solo travel. Now, let me tell you, I honestly, truly think that there is nothing more life-changing, nothing that will improve a person's character more than solo travel. I love solo travel, but in all honesty, it's not for everyone. In fact, I'm pretty sure at my company, around 25 to 30% of flight attendants quit within the first year. Why? They just can't hack it. It's a lot of solo travel. Like, we're traveling with a crew, we're traveling with passengers, but when we get to the hotel, we're alone. When we're on the ground, we're alone. We will have what's called lost days, sitting in a hotel for an entire day with nothing to do, nobody to hang out with, and a lot of flight attendants can't hack it, so they quit within the first year. I am what they call at the company a slam clicker. And what that means is when I get to the hotel room, I slam the door shut and click the lock and I'm done. I don't want to go out with the crew and go partying. And a lot of flight attendants, when they sign up, they think that it's going to be party, party, party all the time. They think they're going to be going out to bars with everybody. And they're surprised to find that that doesn't happen, because a lot of times we just met the crew for the first time. Or if we're flying with somebody again, we might not have flown with them for 4 or 5 years, and we're lucky if we remember their names. So flight attendant life is very much a lot of solo travel. And in today's video, the girl that's doing her deep dive into her own solo travel is going to offer some really good tips and some really good advice about protecting yourself, making it better, taking it to the next level, even dealing with loneliness on the trip. For me, I just want to say, I think that solo travel is amazing because you're going to find out what kind of person you really are. In all honesty, I feel like solo travel is very much like living in a house with nobody around and no television. And for some people, me saying that, just no television, immediate nightmare, especially if you're like me at all and you have that constant chatter going on in your brain. You can't sleep at night because your monkey mind won't shut up. It might sound like torture for you to go on a trip and have nothing but your thoughts. For others, maybe they won't like the silence, because from what I understand, some people don't have a constant chatter stream in their head. But either way, you are faced with a version of yourself that is going to challenge you to look at the world in a larger way. You're going to have new input coming in. You're going to have new experiences, new smells, new sensations, and your mind will take that information and process it in a way that is going to reshape the way you think, the way you see, the way you do things. The longer you can stay away while you're solo traveling, the more of an impact the change will be within your own life. It's a great experience whether you're traveling with someone else or whether you're traveling by yourself. The difference is when you're traveling with other people, your trip is often about them. You will get held up by people who want to take their time exploring something, maybe getting ready in the morning, maybe looking in a shop, maybe just eating at a restaurant, and it eats into the plan that you might have for yourself. Whereas with solo travel, everything is up to you. If you want to do absolutely nothing for the day, you can. If you want to go hit up those museums that nobody else in your family likes, you can. If you want to check out the music scene or go to a nightclub, you can. The best thing about solo travel is there's nobody there to tell you no. And that's why I wanted to delve into this today. So this has gone on longer than I thought it was going to go. Let's just jump right into this with who we are reacting to today. Today I'm reacting to Maya Lee, who has 534,000 subscribers, 446 videos. And her description says, "Hi YouTube family. I'm Maya. Here you'll find lifestyle inspiration through my vlogs." Lifestyle inspiration. There's a Christian quote there for you. Ethnicity, Korean American. Her camera, her software, her height. That's an interesting thing to put for information. Joined in 2008. And the video that I'm reacting to is 24 solo travel tips and hacks. Travel alone without feeling lonely. Obviously, that is something that flight attendants must do. This is going to be an interesting video. You guys ready to jump into this? Let's do this.
If you ever find yourself having to be solo on a trip, or you're thinking about solo travel and you're a little bit scared, or you just like to hear my voice, then this video is for you. Some people fear traveling alone because they're scared of loneliness or they're scared something bad might happen to them, like the movie Taken. But I have now traveled to 8 different places by myself since I was 22 years old. So here are 24 solo travel tips and hacks to ease your mind and show you how life-changing it can be. I am an introvert, but I will say that traveling alone can be a lot of time alone. Why travel solo? Other than work-related things, traveling solo allows you to have the freedom to travel and do exactly what you want to do without worrying about anybody else. That can also teach you what kind of traveler you are. What do you enjoy doing? What pace do you enjoy? Because you're not worried about following anyone else's schedule, it's your own. I have found that I tend to adapt to other people's traveling styles, but when I am by myself, I don't mind going out early in the morning, then I'll come back for like a midday nap, then I'll go back out again in the evening. Next, traveling solo allows for introspection, where you are outside of your daily routine in another country or a different state, and you really get some time to yourself to think and reflect. And introspection is so important for us as humans to just be mindful of how are our actions and what kind of person are we. Traveling solo also allows you to really grow as a person. I get very homesick if I am traveling by myself, and that just allows me to be in uncomfortable situations and to grow and to push through it. And when I come back, I'm like, I was just in Japan by myself. I can handle this work email. And you have to problem solve all by yourself. So I feel like with those experiences, I get even 1% more mature. But now with solo travel, especially as a woman, comes solo travel safety. That's very important. Some of the things I share may sound a little bit paranoid, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. And I'm going to err on the side of caution so that you can just have the best time and not worry about anything. First, you want to research your destination and figure out what their walking score is. Is the place you're going walking friendly, especially if you aren't going to have a car? Now, traveling in off seasons can be helpful because a lot of the flights and accommodations will be cheaper. But on the flip side, it's actually nice to go when there's a lot of tourists because there's just a lot of people outside because people are roaming the streets everywhere. But if you're in a city where you know it's totally safe, it's fine to go during the off season, even if there's not a lot of people out and about. Korea and Japan, I felt very, very safe walking out at nighttime by myself. In Madrid, I also felt very safe, but there may be some cities and places that you should maybe avoid late at night, especially alleyways.
I don't know about you, but I really like that walk score website. I've never heard of that. I think that's probably a great tip to check out ahead of time. It's actually interesting if you're traveling abroad, like when I went to Korea, everything that you know as an American will get you in trouble. When I was walking around Korea, I did what I think any typical female does. I avoided the alleys that she was talking about. And yet that was where all the fun stuff was. That's where the stores and the restaurants were. And instead I went for the big wide open paths where there was nothing but cars. And I would walk for miles and find nothing because I was in the wrong place. So it does help to open up Google Maps and start looking at the businesses in the different areas. Look at what the ratings are. The higher the rating, the more likely it is that is a safer place. The reason that I say that is because if people feel that it's not safe, they're not going to go there that often, and Google isn't going to prompt them for a review. If you use Google Maps a lot, Google Maps will prompt people for reviews. I get prompted all the time for it, but I always like to check out where the businesses are. Downtown areas, at least in the United States, often have quite a few people unless it's a completely empty downtown. And I have been to downtown areas in cities across the US where there were no businesses left. And if that's the case, it's not always the safest place to walk around. So again, looking at Google Maps can tell you that wherever the concentration of businesses are, that's where the concentration of people are. And usually there's safety in crowds. I think a lot of women understand that concept. She talked about the different travel seasons. For most places that you go to, summer is the high travel season, Christmas is the high travel season. And obviously that flip-flops when you cross the equator. So keep in mind, like springtime in Paris is fall in Australia, and Australia's springtime is fall in Europe. So it's always good to go in the spring when you travel because there will be less tourists and the people will be friendlier. Whereas if you were to go in the fall, you're at the end of the travel season time. And if it's a place that gets swamped with a lot of tourists, the locals who work there are going to be super irritated and more aggressive. So it is a good idea to try to travel before the travel season starts. Also keep in mind crowds, that there is safety in numbers.
Share your itinerary, like your flight number and the time, as well as your hotel, with someone at home or someone that you know that is in your home country. That way they can just kind of keep tabs and make sure you landed where you needed to be, and they know where you're staying in terms of your accommodations, just in case. Make sure you stay connected, whether you have Wi-Fi or an eSIM or just any way where you know you can contact someone, especially if you're international, just so that you have a way to connect with someone. My friends and I also have each other on Find My Friends. It's just a way for us to just make sure, you know, our friends are safe, and we also are just curious and like to know where they are.
I think the tip that has to do with staying connected with home is a great tip for whether you're traveling or whether you're actually at home. For my family, we have Life 360 on all our phones. For some people, like if you have Apple, you automatically have Find My Phone. The reason that I say it's a good tip to have, whether you're traveling or you're not traveling, is because I was just watching a news article the other day about a man who went skiing and an avalanche happened and he got buried. He tried to save himself and he tried to wedge himself between a couple rocks, and instead he just got buried under the rocks. And he said his arms were trapped by his side and it was like he was stuck in cement, but he had his iPhone in his chest pocket. And his wife had seen something on the news and she got a feeling that she should check. She pulled up Find My iPhone and saw that he wasn't moving. And so apparently she drove the 80 miles from their house to where he was skiing, gave her phone to the rescuers. It took them about 4 hours, but they found him and they saved his life. It's an excellent idea. If you have that, use that. Make sure the people in your family know how to find that. And generally, if you are traveling, like if you do get an eSIM, then you have to make sure to add that phone number to your group circle. Otherwise, if you're using your regular phone line, it can connect when you go into Wi-Fi areas and it lets people know that you're doing whatever. So it's always good to connect your phone to Wi-Fi every day, because then that kind of creates a marker that you were there at a particular time.
Next, make sure you pack lightly, especially when you're traveling alone. Just take what you can carry by yourself, because there's nobody who can help you in the overhead compartment. And when you're lugging it through public transportation, you just want to make sure you can handle it, because there's nothing more pressuring than trying to get everything by yourself. Next, decide how you're going to get to and from the airport before you go on your trips. This is just one less thing to worry about when you land, where you already know how you're going to get from the airport to your accommodations, whether it's Uber, public transportation, or someone's gonna pick you up, or like a private taxi. Just know what you're going to do.
I especially agree with the one where she said you want to get your ride ahead of time, because a lot of times when you leave from the airport, they are going to charge you a huge amount of money to go from one place to another. So it's good to find out if at the airport, is there a metro or a train that goes into the airport and out of the airport. That can save you a lot of money, because if you can just get out of the airport, you can order an Uber or a rideshare or a taxi. It's going to cost you a lot less, so it's going to save you money. But the other thing too is, sometimes depending on which country you're in, sometimes you don't necessarily want to just hop into any old cab for safety purposes. One of the nice things about Uber is that it rates your driver, and it also shows you generally how many rides they've given. So you know, like, is this a new guy to Uber or is it somebody that's been around longer? So for safety's sake, that's a good one to do too.
Secure your valuables. Make sure that you have your wallet and your phone inside a pocket, and that it's not just hanging behind you. Make sure that you have your things in the front. Nobody else is looking out for you, so you just have to look out for yourself. So I always have like my sling bag, and I make sure the zipper part is in front of me, or I make sure that my phone and my wallet are always in front of me, never behind me.
I feel like that's a very American tip, to keep your bag stuff in front of you or out of pickpocketing range. I think we kind of tend to do that naturally, especially if you live in big cities. I remember, again, when I was in Korea, it was really funny because it was pretty much the opposite of what they would do there. I would get my backpack on and I would get on the subway and I would immediately put my back to the door so there'd be nobody behind me and I didn't have to worry about anybody pickpocketing my backpack. But everybody else in Korea would stand facing the door. And so I'd be standing there looking at them, and they'd be looking at me, but not looking at me, because they don't really do eye contact in South Korea so much. And I would just be like, hi. It was super awkward. But backpacks are a great way, if you do it Having backpacks, you can do things like zip ties to make sure that certain pockets don't open. What I was thinking as she was talking is some people do fanny packs, because then that keeps the important stuff in front of you. The pilot's wife, I forget her name, I want to say Lori, they talk about the sling bags. The reason I'm thinking about that now is because they recently talked about wearing the sling bag under your jacket to sneak it into the plane under the gate agents and the flight attendant's nose. Basically, you can do that while you're traveling too, if you think about it. If you keep your sling bag tucked under a hoodie or under a jacket, not only is it less likely to get pickpocketed, less people are going to know that it's there. You don't want to put your passport into your jacket, because it's very likely at some point during the day you're going to take your jacket off, you're going to set it on a chair, and you might forget that, and now you're screwed because you don't have that. So if you are traveling with your passport, you always want to keep that in your bag at the hotel, or else keep that in something that's on your body underneath your clothes. That would be the recommendation that I would make more for securing your valuables.
Make sure you choose accommodations that have a lot of reviews where you can kind of see the notes of, how is it at night? How's the noise level? And did people feel safe? I also like to check the location on Google Maps, and then I press on the yellow person and I just kind of see what the surrounding area looks like. Of course, we can't know for sure what a location is like, but it just gives you a general idea of what is the feel of this neighborhood. And if you'll be utilizing public transportation, make sure your accommodations are near the public transportation so you're not walking, 20 minutes every single night. Make sure to utilize the second lock in your hotel room, the one that goes at the very top, like a little bar that goes across. There have been stories of the front desk making a mistake and they make another key for someone that happens to open your hotel room. I've heard this happen before. Not to me, so you just want to make sure nobody can just barge into your hotel room, even if it's a mistake. I always have the bar right across so that even if someone tried to open the door, they can't come in.
So I fully agree with that about throwing the locks on the door as soon as you walk into the hotel room. And that's something I've done since pretty much day one as a flight attendant. I had just graduated, flight attendant boot camp, I called it. Basically, the company had put us up in a hotel before orientation. We just happened to get to the hotel at the same time. We went up the elevator at the same time. We were in the same hallway. His room was before mine. So he and I were walking down the hall together. He got to his room and entered the room. I went farther down the hall, and when I got to my room, I heard a door down the hall open and close, and I turned and I looked, and here comes my classmate coming back out of the room, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And he said, "There's somebody already in the room. They're asleep." They're asleep. Can you imagine if that was you and you're asleep and somebody walks in the room and you don't even know? I mean, come on. So he had to go back down and get a new room, and I've seen this happen so many times over the years, especially with crew, because with the crew, they give us the same block of rooms all the time, and they don't necessarily know that sometimes we might switch. I've changed my room many, many times, and that becomes a problem because then the hotel might lose track of which room I'm in. When they do that, not only might they assign somebody else to the same room because they did a room swap, but also the maids might come into the room. A lot of times they start coming in as early as 7 or 8 in the morning to clean the rooms, and it's very annoying because they'll knock just bop, 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 and then they try to open the door before you even have a chance to answer. So if you throw the locks, that prevents them from coming in. So I would say always throw the locks. Here's another great way to secure a hotel lock in a pinch. I'm going to take it one further, and I'm hoping she's going to give this advice as well. When you get a room, open the door. It helps a lot of times to leave your bag propping the door open, peek into the room, peek around the corners, look around the bed. Some say check the closet too. I don't really care about checking the closet. Most people, if they go into a hotel room, they're not kicking it in the closet, if that makes sense. But I have had flight attendants tell me before about going into a hotel room once, and there was a homeless guy sleeping on the floor of the hotel room. He had come in through a back door and slipped in when the maids had left the door open. He hid then, and as soon as they were gone, he didn't want them to know he'd been there, so he just slept on the floor. So it's good to check the floor for situations like that.
Now, before heading out for your day, make sure you download your Google Maps and you already kind of preview the route that you need to go on. Even if you're looking at it and you're like, this doesn't make any sense to me, at least you just have it there and it's open, because whenever you are out and about and you're looking a little lost, you're really bringing attention to yourself because people notice, and you just want to make sure that you are safe and you don't draw unnecessary attention to yourself.
There's one more thing that I want to add to that, because that is a really good tip that I think a lot of people ignore. Especially if you're in the US, they might think, oh, well, I have GPS, it'll be fine, it'll link up. There's a lot of places, even in the US still, where things like really tall buildings will make GPS lose you. If you're wandering around downtown Chicago, guaranteed your GPS is going to lose you several times. There's also places like Marquette, Michigan, where depending on the phone service you have, you're not going to get any calls, you're not going to get any data. Marquette is one of those places where when I go, I'm in like a zero contact zone. None of my phone calls get through, none of my text messages get through, and I don't get data at all. It is a great idea to download those maps and save yourself the headache of thinking, where am I going? And you're going the wrong direction because GPS lost you.
If you start to feel lonely, it's also helpful to call your friend or your family member. And for me, I like to use either Kakao Talk, FaceTime, or Facebook Messenger. And then I'll either call my husband or my mom and my dad. Usually that's it. And then usually I'll text my friends. I always
I feel like that's for young people. I'm just saying. I don't FaceTime. Do you?
vlog most of my trips, so that is very helpful for me to not feel alone, especially when I'm eating. I just have my camera in front of me and I feel like I'm eating with you guys. But for most people, I know it can start to feel a little bit daunting, but just enjoy the food. And I found that in Madrid, the waiters were so nice to me because I was eating by myself. They would check in on me a lot more often. They would also give me free food. But I really had to just learn to sit with this feeling of I'm okay and it's okay, but I'm fine with it, so it's okay. And it's normal to feel alone sometimes, and it's normal to just sit, and we just need to sit with that feeling. But if solo dining is daunting, there are places that have solo dining options, whether it's taking food to go and eating it at a park, or there are restaurants that specialize in just solo eating where you just get a small table for yourself. This is really popular in Asia. When I went to Korea, I went to get Myeongdong Gyoza, which is like a kalguksu place, and when I said I was eating by myself, they sent me upstairs where everybody was eating alone. It's just all these people at their own table. But you can also read a book, listen to a podcast or an audiobook, and we live in a generation where a lot of people just have technology on them while they're eating. But if you just want to people watch, that's fine too.
Obviously, most of my meals are solo eating, and one of the ways that I deal with that she didn't mention is I just take my cell phone with me, and I have videos either downloaded already that I've downloaded from the hotels, or I downloaded at the airport before I got on a plane, because not all planes necessarily have Wi-Fi, but I always try to keep a collection downloaded to my phone. And a lot of times I'll just prop my phone up in front of me and then throw on a show. And then you don't really care if anybody's looking at you that way, because to them, it looks like you're doing something important by watching whatever you're watching on your phone. That's a good way to do solo dining without feeling like you're in the middle of a restaurant, which, by the way, has happened to me. When I went to Korea, there's a subway stop near a bunch of arenas, including like a baseball arena. And down this one alley is where all the restaurants were. And I stopped in this one restaurant and it had 4 pictures on the wall. Not even really a menu. They would just have you point to what you wanted on the wall. And I sat down and I pointed to the buckwheat noodles with the pork. And they literally sat me in this middle table in the middle of the restaurant. It's like a U shape. There were tables all along the walls and around the back, and then there was a set of tables down the middle. And they put me in the front one closest to the exit. And the exit was one of those types where the whole front of the restaurant was open. Like, it wasn't like a single door that you walked through. It was just like there's no doors during the day, and then at night they pull down a garage door and lock it up kind of thing. They had me in the front seat, in the middle, facing the street, and I was going to town on those noodles, which made the noodles look even better, and everybody was watching me eat this. And it was a really funny experience, because when they brought the noodles out to me, it was basically buckwheat noodles in a soup, and they were cold, and then a little plate of the pork strips, and they hand me chopsticks and scissors, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with these? I was so confused, and it was clear that I was confused because they immediately realized it, and the waitress laughed, and she came over and took the scissors from me and just cut the noodles up, took my chopsticks, stirred it all up, and then handed it to me. No spoon or anything. And to this day, it was one of my absolute favorite meals. And it was actually kind of fun being the center of attention, because everybody in the restaurant was Korean. There were hardly any white people at all where I was wandering around. And everybody was watching me as if I was the entertainment of the night. But yeah, so anyway, if you don't like solo dining, just take out your phone. Simple way to fix that. And then also what she said about the vlogging thing. I think that's very true because as I make these videos, I feel like I'm actually talking to people, especially when I see you guys comment in the comments below. It makes me feel less like I'm talking into the void and more like I'm talking to specific people. So it is a great way to make yourself feel a little bit less alone. Just start posting videos on YouTube. See who starts responding. You'd be surprised at how your channel starts to grow.
Carry a safety device. So one time I went to Europe and I brought my pepper spray with me. I don't even know how it made it to Europe with me. But then I was going from Prague to London and I realized, oh no, I have my pepper spray in my backpack. And so they made me throw it away. But I have found that, hand sanitizer, that would probably hurt if you sprayed someone with it. So just know that that could be something that helps you feel safe too. Hopefully you never have to use it. Or a Hydro Flask water bottle or anything that's made out of metal or tin. Just
one tip that I would give that I learned from Oprah when I was in like junior high was the key trick. They would say take your keys and insert them through your fingers like that, and then you'd punch somebody with that, and those will get through security. I know that sounds really crazy, but I remember this one time I was actually walking home late at night and I was really mad about some stuff that happened during the day, so I wasn't paying attention like I normally would, and I was talking to myself because I do that, and all of a sudden I realized that there was a guy following me and he was getting a little too close, and I did that with the keys between my fingers. He tried to talk me into giving him a ride somewhere, and I said, I'm walking right now, I don't have my car. And when I turned my back at him, he rushed me, and I brought my hands up with the keys between my fingers and like at least one hand, and I just shouted at him like, no. And he froze because he didn't know what to make of that, the fact that I was shouting at him. And that's a really good way to deter an attacker who's by themselves. Also, when I realized I was being followed, I immediately diverted my route towards a bunch of houses where I knew there were people at that time of night. And as he tried to talk to me, I continued to shout at him, and other people heard and came out, and he ran off. It was probably one of the best ways to protect yourself. Like, I learned that when I took a self-defense class, that you need to raise your voice. You need to be aggressive, because if you're passive, if you look scared, an attacker is more likely to attack you. That's a tip that I like. Just the keys through the fingers. Also, as far as I know, if you really want pepper spray, I think you can get those at like office stores now. I've seen them at Office Depot, Office Max, a lot of times by the registers, but you can always ask at the hotel, hey, is there a place nearby that sells pepper spray? Because it is likely that they won't let you take that on a plane if they notice that you have it. But you might find pepper spray in more common places than you would think. But
in public settings, especially public transportation, surround yourself with families and children. I always feel safe when I see children walking around. Like, it's safe for them, it's safe for me. It's unfortunate that I have to even think that way, but it is what it is. Know the emergency number of whatever place you are in. In the United States, 911 is the police, but in other countries, it's not. Like in Korea, it's actually 119. Another safety thing is to be mindful of sharing your itinerary, especially on social media, if you are on social media. For me, I try to be very mindful to not post in real time. So if I am eating at a restaurant, which that could be like an hour experience, then I try to post after I leave, because if I post right at that moment, you just never know who could be looking at our socials, especially if your profile is not private. Of course, if a viewer said hi to me, I'd always be so happy and so excited. So this is not just because I'm a content creator, but this is for everyone. Just be mindful of what you're posting, especially what hotel you're at or what you plan to do for the entire week.
I wholeheartedly agree with that tip, especially as a crew. A lot of times if you'll watch some of my videos where I record in a hotel, I will say, I can't tell you where I'm at. I can either tell you what hotel I'm at, or I can tell you what town I'm at, but I can't tell you both. And that's not just for my safety as a solo traveler, it's for the safety of all of the crew. As crew, we're all at risk to be hijacked by terrorists, and that's one of the things that they make us consider. So I agree with her about not necessarily showing in real time where you are, not dropping a pin where you are when you're there. Some people do that, like they check in somewhere, which may sound like, oh, that's not a big deal. But nowadays there's so many apps, especially like dating apps, of who's in range that you might want to get to know. I feel like as a woman, it's just safer if you keep that kind of information to yourself when you're traveling alone, because you don't want anybody to see you in an app and then they follow you to your hotel and snatch you later. So I agree with her about always be mindful, like when you're walking, are you being followed? If you're being followed, then head to a crowded area. Always just be aware of your surroundings. It amazes me how many young women nowadays don't do that. Like, I remember flying with a flight attendant once, 2 years ago, actually. She was 20 at the time, and same age as my oldest. And she was telling me about how she'd gotten drunk and gotten into an Uber of a stranger and went back to his place and slept on his couch and nothing happened. And I just looked at her and went, "You're gonna get," do you know what I mean? And she was like, "How can you say that to me? I'm so offended." And it's like, you have no sense of self-preservation at all. What's wrong with you? As a beautiful young woman, and you don't even know where you're at? Don't be stupid. If you were my kid, I would smack the crap out of you and tell you, pay attention. Which reminds me, the first few times that my oldest wanted to walk around without me, I not only had them on Life 360 and was watching the whole way that they walked and back, but there was one time we stopped at the harbor and they wanted to walk around for Pokemon Go to go collect some Pokemon at this harbor we were at. And I said, "Sure, go ahead." They went walking and I followed the entire way. And not once did my oldest turn around to see if I was there. We walked probably 1,500 feet. A pretty far distance, right? Finally, I caught up with them and I said, "You need to have some self-awareness. You need to look behind yourself once in a while. I've been following you this whole time. You never caught on. So be smart. Be aware of your surroundings. Casually look over your shoulder every now and then. Once a block, at least. Make sure that nobody is consistently following you, just for safety's sake.
Make sure to use reliable means of transportation so that you don't end up getting scammed. Because I know there's different countries where some people have their own taxi lines and you just don't know how much they're charging. They can scam you. So be very mindful that you have a reliable means of transportation. I don't mind using Uber in other countries because at least I know that they have a customer service line. So if anything happens, I can contact customer service. Keep emergency cash on you because you don't have anybody else to ask or to rely on. And so it's nice to just have some emergency cash should you need it. Back in 2013, not all places in Europe accepted card, but I'm sure now that's changed. But again, rather be safe than sorry. Usually for me, I like to think enough cash to last me one day because I feel like, okay, within at least one day, I can figure out whatever problems are happening.
It's always nice to keep some cash in the vault, if you know what I mean, ladies, just a little tuck. But it's an excellent idea to definitely have some extra cash tucked into places on your body that can't be pickpocketed. In addition, one tip that I would definitely say, download to your phone as many credit cards as you can. Or if you're uncomfortable doing multiple credit cards, at least 3 credit cards. Because sometimes when you're traveling, your credit card company might shut your credit card off thinking, why are you in this area that you shouldn't be in? This must be fraud. And they'll shut your card off, which can be super frustrating. One of the things you can try to do to make sure that doesn't happen is before you go on a trip, you can call your credit card company and let them know, hey, I'm going on a trip. But the biggest point is that if you lose your wallet, if you get pickpocketed, or whatever, at least you still have it on your phone. And basically everywhere now you can tap with your phone to pay. It will save you so much headache. Also with my phone, I have my wallet on the back, magnetic, and I will carry at least 2 credit cards in here as well. And a lot of times those 2 credit cards will be different than what's saved in my phone. So if for some reason one of my cards shuts off or more than one of my cards shuts off, I have another. Or if you go to Walmart where they don't do tap to pay, you can still pull out a credit card and use that.
23. If you're into it, you can talk to strangers, but be mindful to listen more about them before you share your whole life story and like that you're traveling alone and all of that, because you want to make sure you just feel out the vibe and make sure they are trustworthy and that they are safe people to be talking to. Make sure to have a portable charger on you because you want to make sure your phone doesn't die when you need it the most because there's nobody else that you can borrow from. So I hope that this encourages you, but also keeps you safe if you plan to travel alone. But also remember that you are never truly alone. Behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. Matthew 28:20. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Travel safely. Bye.
I feel like the last one was obvious. The backup battery that can be plugged into a wall can act as both a charging station and a recharger. So that's a really great tip too. If you're taking a backup battery, to take one that can be directly charged, because even if you do take a backup battery, you might only get a few hours out of it, where if you take one that can easily be plugged into something, then that's a great way to keep the power going, especially if you're in another country. And then you might want to take a little adapter to be a whole lot less of a mess than a big travel adapter. As far as talking with strangers, here is a tip that you might like. If you want somebody to actually say that the conversation with you is the best conversation they've ever had in their entire life, just let them talk. As crazy as that sounds, a lot of people don't realize that you're not talking that much when they're talking. And you can add stuff, you can prompt stuff to get them to talk, but the more you can get them to talk about themselves, the more fantastic they think you are as a conversationalist. It's this weird catch-22. You can literally say nothing. If you think about it, like therapists, what do they ever really say to people? You're basically playing therapist for them, and they will love you for it. Another thing too that I use to always start a conversation that works pretty much 98% of the time is I look for something to genuinely compliment a person about. It could be as simple as their hair color, their hairstyle, the jacket they bought, the shoes they're wearing, their jewelry, their tattoos. And I know that might sound crazy to some people, like, no, it can't be that easy. It really is that easy. And one of the things too is, I think for a lot of women, especially when we're younger and we're better looking, we're used to people telling us that we're good looking, flirting with us, hitting on us, whatever. But as you get older, as you get rounder, as you have kids, as you get more bent over, more wrinkly, more weird hair, whatever, the compliments become less and less. And it can be very disheartening for somebody who's gotten used to being complimented by people when they were younger. It can really feel hurtful. So if you see somebody, even if they're not attractive, if you honestly give them a compliment about something that they're wearing, what you're doing is you're telling them, in effect, they have good taste. And that compliment can be even more meaningful than a beauty compliment. Like, beautiful women are used to getting compliments on their beauty all the time, but to be told that their style is amazing, that is a compliment that's about the inner beauty versus the outer beauty. It was something that I learned from Mary Kay Ash from the Mary Kay company a long time ago, and I've used it for decades. And I tell you, it can turn someone's day around. Something as simple as finding something genuine to compliment about someone can turn their day around. They could be having the worst day, but to be told that their taste is amazing, that the artwork on their body is amazing, that you love their jacket, where did they get it? It can turn their day around. And that's one of my absolute favorite things to do. It's also one of the best ways to make friends while traveling. And then you just let them talk about themselves. And then from there, you can decide, hey, do I want to hang out with this person or not? Because now you know all their secrets. So that's my advice for that. And hopefully you guys like that. Okay, guys, let's go through this next part a little bit faster. Here is the winner for last week's giveaway. Again, if you want to see previous winners, go to faguides.com/winners. I will list all of the winners there, including who needs to still redeem their awards and how to contact me. Also, here is this week's Gimme Pass winner. Thank you for being so active in the community. I see all your comments and I love reading them, so thank you very much for that. I know I still need to do some honorable mention ones, but I'm not having time to do the 2 videos a week. So the honorable mentions will happen once time finally slows down. Obviously, I'm in my house, and as you can see from the wall behind me, needs a lot of work. I have a ton of work that I'm still doing on the house, and right now I'm only able to do 1 video a week. So I'm trying to condense these as much as I can. And finally, guys, grab your remote because it's about that time. I'm going to go ahead and link to Maya Lee's video here. So then that way, if you want to, you can go ahead and follow her if you liked her, or see what other kind of stuff she has that might interest you. I thought she was funny, very cute. And I did like some of her tips, although they weren't really tips or hacks. Some of them were just common sense advice, right? But yeah, if you guys like this, please let me know by hitting the like button. And don't forget, in order for me to do a Q&A video, I need you guys to ask me questions in the comments below. The pinned comment at the top is for this week's giveaway. If you didn't see the question pop up in the video, just go down and read the pinned comment. That's the question for the week. Make sure you put your answer within the first 24 hours. That way you can get entered into the giveaway, and I will announce in next week's video who the winners are. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit those subscribe and notification bells. For now, I'm struggling to do the once a week. Hope you guys understand. See you next week. Ciao.